So on the 27th, there's, it's auction season right now. So Phillips just had a big auction in Hong Kong that occurred on the 27th, and Christie's has an ongoing auction going on right now. And what's great about these auctions is that it really sets the stage for what's going to be occurring in 2018 as far as what's collectible, what's not, what are the tastes, what's trending, and you begin to get a good idea of where the future of collecting is going. So starting us right off the bat is an AP reference 25721 Ti. So this is actually a watch that I spoke about. I want to say it was last week or the week before.
You did. You were talking about the re-edition on the occasion of the anniversary.
Exactly. So, and I had this watch on the show, and the watch just hammered at 125,000 Hong Kong dollars, which translates to 16,000 US. So, this is a watch that just sold at auction a few days ago for $1,500 more than what even our ask price is on the watch. And I think that this is a good example of a watch that you can see that people are sort of getting ready for that re-edition and what that re-edition is going to do to the rest of the older AP market. Because, the older style offshore chronos, due to the advancements of having the sapphire crystal back and the ceramic pusher, people are like, well, what are the older ones worth? And those older ones are now trending way up because they know of how hot this re-edition is going to be.
Yeah, there have been 3 simple facts that have propelled the value of early Royal Oaks, and I'm talking the 25770 and the 25721. Those are your Royal Oak offshores on bracelets and straps. The thing is, they're starting to be looked at the way people look at first-generation Gerald Gent to Royal Oaks. People are looking at them as the foundation of a dynasty, earlier watches, because AP made far fewer watches back then. The production was a lot less than it is today, so it's not like there are as many of them. Some of them have suffered due to attrition. These are watches that were built to be worn hard, and a lot of people did. Some were outright casualties. Other have been so battered, bruised, sanded down by poor refinishing that they're just not the same product today.
They were tool watches. They weren't bought with the expectation of what the market would be today.
So you're looking at a pool that started small. And remember, AP produced fewer watches then, and the offshore was the anomaly.
Correct.
In the first 5 years they made that watch, very few people said,
didn't want it.
Yeah, they wanted a thin watch. They wanted a dress watch. They didn't want a huge base metal sports watch from Audemars Piguet. So few were made. A bunch of them have perished for one reason or another. Beaten to death, parted out, or refinished in ways that make them no longer desirable. So a smaller pool still. And of those APs that were Royal Oaks, you got to realize that there were quite a few versions in the early days. So to find any one, you're talking about subdividing a small pool. So these are quite special watches, and I think in time people will start to look at them more like they do, 5402 first generation Royal Oaks.
And I brought this watch because A, I thought it was a good, a good watch to show, given that we just had it on a show, and B, I think that this is a watch. A lot of people have the modern era offshore with the rubber pushers, the solid case back. That was, the watch to have that they did, a lot of editions of, and I think that, with the new advancements of the watch, a lot of those people might have saw a little bit of a diminishing in the secondary market of their watch, but as AP has strengthened as a brand, those have started to increase, and I think AP announcing that they're going to launch this re-edition puts this watch back in the limelight. So I thought it was a great result for the watch, and I'm excited to see what continues with AP.
So the motto there, or the moral I should say, is buy your basically D and E series Royal Oak offshores and hold.
Yeah. So, but no. So, moving right along, we have the Tag Heuer reference 74033 that we're going to pull a picture up of, and this is the Tag Heuer the Dark Lord. So, I freaking love this watch, and I love what it represents for the brand. I love that it was pretty much like one of the first PVD watches that was done. And it was done when people were like, what is this? And what interested me about this result, wasn't so much that it was expected, because it brought about $61,000. It was more that, the watch itself didn't fetch more. Because, with what's been going on with Tag recently at the auction
Yes.
block. This happens to be one of the most collectible Tag Heuers that's ever been produced. And you know, over the last several years, the watch has pretty much sold anywhere from 52 to 62,000. And I really would have thought that a watch like this, given how well the other Octavias have been doing, would have performed better. So it performed sort of in line with what I expected, but I was really hoping for a much higher result.
So here's the thing about this watch, guys. When I look at it, the standout feature of it isn't an inherent quality of the watch, but rather the survival of this example through the ravages of time. These things tend to look like the...
A lot of black Sharpie marks on there.
Yeah, right, exactly, guys. Buyer beware. But these things generally tend to look like the bumper of a New York City cab after a few months. The fact that this watch has survived basically 40 years unmarred, I mean, there aren't 5-year-old PVD watches that look this good. The values might have taken a little hit a while ago, because originally it was thought this was some sort of a prototype watch and that maybe a dozen were made, maybe 2 dozen. And then later discussions with Jack Heuer, I think, revealed the possibility the production might have been in the triple digits. So like Brian said, values softened a little bit, but there are, you know, examples of the 740-33, and then there are perfect examples. Yeah. And so then they might be as rare as originally thought. Exactly.
So I think that over time, you know, as Tag starts performing a little bit better, and when I say better, I don't really believe that we're going to start having like $1 million Tag Heuers.
No, and I do think there will be a pullback at some point.
There will be, but I think that, you know, when I say better, you know, you have watches that a few years ago were selling for a few $1,000s are now selling for $40,000. So, you know, you've got essentially somewhat of blind items at this point based on the demand for these specialized vintage pieces and for really the auctions to have something other than Rolex to put in there because they have to sell things other than $300,000 Paul Newman. So I absolutely love the watch. I've been a fan of this watch for a while, which is, it's actually this what led me to bring the Monza on the show. So I think that, you know, big things to come from Tag.
Okay, so questions coming in from the live audience. Here is a question from, oh boy, we had a question that I think it jumped out of my way. So I don't know who asked it, but someone was asking about the Tonda 1950 from Parmigiani Fleurier, the steel micro rotor, and they were comparing that to a Reverso Duo. So I guess the number one question you've got to ask yourself is, what shape do you like better? Because there is no comparison between the two in terms of presence on the wrist. If you need a dual time between the two options you've given yourself, the Reverso Duo is the only game in town. But the Tonda 1950 micro rotor in steel below $10,000 gives you a real high horology pedigree. And that basic movement is all over the industry in watches costing multiples of what that example costs. If you want something different, you want a round case, and you buy into the romance of the Parmigiani brand, kind of the modern day watchmaker to watchmakers, go with the Tonda. But if you want the traditional watchmaker to watchmakers and you like the Reverso, plus you need a dual time, go with the Reverso Duo.
Definitely. So moving right along, this is a result that, you know, really surprised me because, you know, and, you know, that results in Patek 5712/1A, which, you know, they're going to show up on the screen. I'm sure everybody that's watching this show now, obviously you guys are all into watches, you know what this watch is. It brought $48,000. So, which is absolutely insane. This was a 2007 piece with box and papers. Really, you know, I was like looping it to see, like, you know, was it a Tiffany stamp dial? No. So I don't know what happened. I mean, Nautilus has gone crazy, but this is absolutely bonkers. And I don't know if this was simply people didn't realize that there was going to be a buyer's premium associated with the purchase, but a 5712 steel is not a $48,000 watch. Now,
did they think it said like 3 instead of a 5
maybe
there?
They were converting wrong from currencies, but at $48,000, it is crazy. And, you know, while I do agree that the 5712/1A is extremely difficult to get right now, and, you know, just being able to buy it is a win, you know, in the secondary market, they are bringing a few $1,000s over retail. Okay. Simply just to be able to have it now. But for a watch like this to be, you know, to go for $15,000 over retail, I think is insane. So
current production model. Remember, guys, this is something you can order at an AD. You can just get in line and order it at list.